And now on Who's Views, it's time for the latest headlines with JT and the Whotastic panel.
Hello, welcome back to Who's Views. This is Headlines. Nice to see you. Very, very welcome. And boy, have we got a packed show for you this evening. First, we've got coming up for you an update and a response to our query about Russell T Davis's social media. We've also got Jodie Whittaker suddenly realizing that she's been part of a 60-year-old show. So all opinions are welcome. Do join us in the chat. Let us know what you think. That's what it's all about. But of course, it's also all about these two. It's Paul and the third Dr. Ian. Hello, both.
Hello there.
Hello.
All right. So we have got a very busy show this evening. So hello to everybody in the chat. I want to start actually, though, with some good news, some nice news. Because Ian, you've been out and about and you found some lovely, lovely artwork around and about, didn't you?
Yeah, fantastic artwork. Wandering through York, which is my hometown, and don't live there now, but not too far away. And wandering through, and you get various. York is known for its buskers and things like that, like some cities are, and street artists. And just alongside York Minster, York's sort of like landmark cathedral, alongside one of the adjacent churches there was this guy painting away with all his prints of his artwork alongside for sale, and you just walking along, giving it a casual glance, and I thought, that's a police box. The one that he was painting was actually a police box. It was a standard countryside scene with a police box in the air, and I thought that immediately obviously caught my interest. And
it's amazing how Doctor Who fans we gravitate as soon as we see we can see it from miles off, can't we? Really?
Yeah.
Like a shark to blood, I think. And so you start casting your eye over his wares, you know, and there was a various selection of police box themed art. There was one gorgeous one that I didn't get, but I will do when enough pennies are accrued, which was the Earl's Court police box. And it was an across the street view. It was very evocative, but it had the back of a fourth Doctor, Tom Baker's Doctor, standing across the street near the police box, and it had Bad Wolf written somewhere, and I think it had the Victory Dalek poster on one of the hoardings. Looked amazing.
We can show it because what you actually did, Ian, is you've sent me some pictures, haven't you? So look at this one first, everyone, Who viewers. This is your man himself. There he is there. This is Mark J. Braithwaite, isn't it?
It is, yeah, Mark Braithwaite. Very, very friendly. I mean, you can see from that right-hand picture, he's also got Star Wars themed stuff. That's the silhouette of York Minster. And in the sky, of course, is the Death Star. Which
that would be very, very scary if that ever happened.
It would be, yeah.
I think I have it on good authority that it wasn't the Death Star that started the 1984 York Minster fire. That was allegedly lightning. No Death Stars were seen that night. But yeah, very friendly guy and amazing work. And you can see on his easel there the police box. But those are the two that I bought. He was selling those for 15 quid a piece, or 2 for 25. So I thought, right, I'll have two. And they were just different. You know, I like the one with the one on its hill with the sheep and everything, and then the one with the two police boxes was telling a story. You know what's going on there. So I thought, right, I'm going to have those two. So
very nice.
They're lovely. Yeah.
I will go back and get the Earl's Court one as well. But,
and speaking of which, it's this one. Now, what you can't tell here, Who viewers, is that there's references to so many stories on this. You've got, as Ian was saying, the fourth Doctor has got his back to us there. Bad Wolf is written on the Earl's Court box door. You've got Canine in there. You've got a Weeping Angel in there. You've got the 10th Doctor driving the taxi. You've got a Victory to the Daleks poster. You've got Cyberman in there. I mean, this thing is littered. This guy knows his stuff. And Cassandra is one of the windows there. This is gorgeous. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
lovely. Yeah,
absolutely wonderful stuff. And you know what? For a sad fan like me, you know, you look and you think, yeah, the police box is in proportion. Yeah, I like that.
You wouldn't think nice if it wasn't you, would you?
Sorry,
You wouldn't sleep nights, Ian, if it wasn't.
I wouldn't actually.
No.
I'd be
None
able
of
to
us
go
would. None of us would. Yeah.
telling him just slot a few more panes in there, please. Get it right. But wonderful stuff. And it's just one of those nice little different curios that you come across every now and again. And yeah, lovely things. And I've got them here, and they are going up on the wall very soon when I can find some space.
When you find some space. It's all good. Well, thanks for sending them in, and great eye you've got there for actually spotting that. If you want any more information, he does have a website, thestreetartist.co.uk. It's Mark J. Braithwaite. So go and have a look. Thestreetartist.co.uk. Not bad at all. Well done. Fantastic. Right, so let's go and see who's in the chat with us this evening. Lots coming up for you in the show as well. And as we say, we want your opinions as we go through. Simon is with us. Hello, Simon. Ashley. Hi, evening all, he says. Thank you as well to Kirsty and Garbage, who are in the chat as ever as well. So thank you, you two. Who else we've got here? We've got Sadeko24. Nice to see you. Dr. Howe is with us. Hello. How are you? Oh, we're showing our age there, guys.
We are, yeah.
We've got Doug here with us. Hi there. We've got Raymond with us as well. He's saying hello to Kirsty. I'm sure he's saying hello to us as well. We've got Cybermat. Hello, Cybermat. Simon Anthony is saying he's here on time for once. You are
Good for you.
We've also got Digby with us. Hello, Digby. Evening, JT. Evening, Paul. Evening, Ian. Evening, lovely people in the chat. That's what I love about this. It's fantastic. Darren is with us. Hello, Darren. He's saying hello there. Dr. Howe's also saying good morning from Australia. Good morning to you if you're over there. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Nice to see you all. Thank you very much. Gary is with us saying the space station is now fully operational. Next target, York. Do you know what? If you saw that thing over there, you would crap yourself, wouldn't you? Because there's nothing you could do. Actually, I was watching Rogue One yesterday. No comments about that. Thank you. I like it. So there you go.
So do I. I like it too. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. Alien Airplanes is saying, yeah, you've got some very nice art there. Ian, so you're right, yeah. Simon and Ashley is also saying, got to have that on his wall. Fantastic. Hello, Dalek, I love you, who is also with us. That's brilliant. Every planet has a south. There is Garbage there. Hello, mate. Thank you for joining us. Thinking is with us as well. And I want to say thank you to the Thinking because he has contributed to some of the information that's going to be into this show. So thank you so much for that, mate. I really, really appreciate it. And that brings me to the point that if you do want to get in touch with us here at Who's Views, and if there's anything that you know or you think would make a headline for us, there's the address there, whosviews1@gmail.com. whosviews1@gmail.com. Anything at all you want to send us, even if you've got some pictures there, or if you think you've seen a news item, you think, hang on, the guys might want to talk about that, and the chat might want to talk about that, send it to us there, whoviews1@gmail.com. And also, we've got some new shows in the pipeline as well. And if you want to take part in those new shows, drop me a line. That's all I'm saying right now. But drop me a line. Right, we do have an update for you, everybody. And this is where we really, really want to get into what your views are here on Headlines tonight, because you may remember last week we spoke about the exchange between the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and the leader of the opposition, Sir Keir Starmer, where an awful lot of material was afterwards on social media produced aimed at the Prime Minister. You can tell I'm trying to be as politically correct on this as possible. But if you want to go and have a look at our show there, you'll know the one. It's on the playlist. You can look at that. But the Prime Minister was accused by some of being the usual phobic. And we all know what we're talking about there. Here on the show, we had a discussion, didn't we, everybody? You'll remember. We had a discussion and we showed here on the show the actual content of the Prime Minister's speech or his delivery that day. And we couldn't see anything phobic in there at all. And we did ask the question, have various people jumped on a bandwagon, an ill-informed bandwagon? And one of those people we asked that question about was, of course, the current showrunner of Doctor Who, Russell T. Davies. Now, also from his Instagram, if you remember this, he re-Instagrammed, whatever you call it on Instagram, Kirsty will know, he put this out. Now, this was the open letter to the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, from the Attitude magazine. Again, if you want more information about this, go and have a look at the show we did last week. But then we also showed his response, which was that. Excellent words from Attitude magazine. We are governed by bastards who incite, and again, I'm not going to say the M word. So you may remember that we had the conversation about this. And in this conversation, guys, we were looking about, how we were asking the question, how can you get away with this? This looks bad for the show. We had people in the chat, of course, saying, what's this about? What's this about? So it was a nice, lively conversation, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we couldn't answer was, is Russell T Davies accountable for that tweet? Well, we decided, Who Viewers, to find out. So we got in contact with the BBC and we asked them about this, and we included the Instagram post between Russell T Davies, the one we just shown there, and also the couple of examples of the conversation, if that's what you call it on Instagram, with Carol Vorderman. And today we've had a response, and this is what we want your views on. Are you ready for this? Stand by your beds. In answer to our response, thank you for contacting us. We understand you have concerns about Russell T Davies and a post on his Instagram account. Russell T Davies is one of Britain's leading television writers who is currently Doctor Who's showrunner. He isn't a BBC staff member, and his personal social media accounts have no connection to the BBC. The BBC's social media guidance has different levels of obligations depending on which area of programming individuals work in. Actors, dramatists, comedians, musicians, and pundits who work for the BBC are not subject to the requirements of impartiality on social media. More details can be found there. You have to click on that. We have, however, shared your feedback with the relevant BBC staff, and your comments have been logged on our complaints report and shared with senior management. Thanks again for taking the time to contact us. Kind regards, the BBC complaints team. So in context, we queried RTD's social media and his language and the instances. And that's what they've got back to us with. He isn't a BBC staff member, and his personal social media accounts have no connection to the BBC. They've also pointed out to me what, of course, we all knew there. Russell T Davies is one of Britain's leading television writers who is currently Doctor Who showrunner. Why would you put that in? So we're asking you now. What do you think? We'll start with you two, obviously, on the panel. What do you reckon?
Well, can I give the BBC a slow first? Because that is no answer whatsoever. There's no responsibility taken at all. He still worked for the BBC via Bad Wolf, surely, so he's connected to it in some way, surely.
You would assume so.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, Lineker is not a BBC employee either. He has the same privileged position, and yet he was suspended for 2 weeks because of what he put on social media. Admittedly, it wasn't long enough because he came back again, but he was suspended. They did take action against him. And there's no difference between his position really and Russell T Davies's. But it is effectively carte blanche to carry on saying whatever the hell you like. There won't be any censure from the BBC. But what the BBC's ignoring is that he is using his position on the BBC to indirectly bring the BBC into ill repute or disrepute, because you automatically associate him with Doctor Who, and Doctor Who is a BBC product. And as they've said, he's the showrunner. So he's in charge of a program that belongs to the BBC. So what he does reflects on the BBC, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. They're not going to take action against him because they're scared of him, and they don't want to lose him because they still think he's right. But they have a huge problem with lots of things at the BBC that are unsavory, including, as we saw, anti-Semitism and anti-white racism. And it's just indicative. It doesn't surprise me that they have these many problems if that's their attitude to what goes on. It doesn't surprise me at all.
I mean, we were talking last week about the fact, we were thinking, not a fact, but we were thinking, would this be their line? And it turns out that it absolutely is, and George S was in the chat as well saying, oh, I don't think he's going to be accountable because he's employed by Bad Wolf. We had that conversation. Absolutely right. So it does now turn out Russell T Davies is not being hired by the BBC. He's been hired by Bad Wolf. They must be the ones that are actually paying his salary to produce this show. But as you guys are saying, this is still a show that is known as a BBC product. It still is owned by the BBC. It might be being produced by a couple of other people as well. But this does really stand of, we're washing our hands of this and we can't comment on this. And what I would like to know is, if the BBC, Paul, can't control this man, who is he accountable to?
Well, to be honest, I think the response we got, if he was directly working for the BBC like he was in 2005 to 2010, I bet the response would be exactly the same, or similar in terms of no action taken, I mean.
Yeah. It just strikes me very odd. Let's bring that back up again, actually, shall we, Who Views? Let's have a look at this. It just really does strike of, yeah, and there's no real level here of responsibility anywhere. It's passing the buck completely. We understand you have concerns about Russell T Davies and the post on his Instagram account. Russell T Davies is one of Britain's leading television writers who is currently Doctor Who's showrunner. It's as though that's where they're saying, and that's all you need to know. He's above the... This is the problem with the show business industry.
To quote the giggle again, that's all right then. Remember? So there you are. So
yeah. But do you not find that very strange to start off a response to a complaint about a serious complaint here, and an inquiry about why is this allowed to happen? And then they're just to say, he doesn't work for us, so therefore we can't say anything. It's not. Surely it's more than just passing it on to Bad Wolf, because we know that if that gets to Bad Wolf, what are they going to do?
I mean, does this mean now that the RTD's got carte blanche to do what he likes?
That's what it suggests. What do the guys think in the well, you two think about that. Let's have a look at this. Darren is saying RTD may not be a staff member, but he's closely linked to a BBC program. Sadeko 24, if they can be openly political, it should go both ways, allowing for right-wing views as well as far left. That's not going to happen, though, with the BBC, is it, right now? Kirsty is saying to us, he's still a yes, but you may not be staff, but you are the face of a BBC institution. Totally. And that's why this response didn't come as a surprise to us, I don't think, but it came as a sort of, oh, right, okay, that's where we stand, is it? Gary Bryant, the third-party get-out clause, absolutely. The Thing King, passing the buck, absolutely. Blue Worm, nice to see you over there in Sweden. Once you've posted something truly idiotic on social media, you'll never escape it. Keep talking. Davis, it'll come back and bite your rump one day. I hope it does. Sadeko's also saying, I used to like Gary Lineker even if he never shared his crisps. Tony, hello to Tony. His crappy version of our favourite Time Lord is on there. Okay. RTD's profile is down to being involved in Doctor Who. It really, 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 really is very, very mixed up here, isn't it? Because this shows you how they've got too big for their boots, really. And it also shows you now that why bother having a BBC complaints? We know that actually the complaints are allegedly being outsourced to Ofcom. As far as I'm concerned now, because we know now that the BBC are not going to action anything, because now nobody works for them apart from the internal staff. All the program makers are now outsourced. So therefore they can do whatever they want in the show. It actually shows that it's not worth complaining to the BBC anymore, which is still funded by the BBC, by the public rather, the British public.
They didn't even say they would pass their comments or complaints on to Bad Wolf, which would have been a thing to try and do at least.
It does say at the bottom there that we have, however, shared your feedback with the relevant BBC staff, and your comments have been logged on our complaints report and shared with you. Now, but you're right though, Paul. It doesn't say. Yeah. It says relevant BBC staff. Now, that is actually standard. When you put in a complaint, they usually always do say that will be shared with the relevant BBC staff. But however, if these people are not working for the BBC, who are you sending it to?
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, you need to reword that. You need to update that BBC complaints team and BBC procedures teams. You need to update that to say your comments, your complaint will be shared with the relevant production companies who are producing these programs. And then you need to make sure it is. Because there is nobody. You've just said one part of your email response, we don't want anything to do with this. He's not BBC staff, and then you're sending it to relevant people. Well, there isn't any relevant BBC staff. What? Look, this is nonsense. It's utter nonsense. And I think the public of Britain need to know about this. There's no point in you complaining to the BBC because they're not listening. They don't want to know. We are just the lowlifes, and they are ironically the superior beings, aren't they? Really, that's what it's coming down to. Do you not think?
Yeah, run by Daleks. That's what it is. Yeah. Yeah.
I think in industry you would have Bad Wolf would be a third-party supplier, which they are, and the BBC would be the customer in the first instance. And the BBC as an organisation would have, in industry, they would have a service delivery manager that would manage that relationship between the BBC and Bad Wolf. And they don't seem to have that. There is no accountable BBC person that manages that relationship with that third party. It just seems to be, we'll forward it on. But like you say, to who? When? What will happen when it gets there? If it gets there, which it probably won't. They'll just file it in the bin, probably, if it ever gets there at all.
This is where I'm hoping, guys, that if and when Ofcom take over this, it might actually start to change things up, because how many complaints are not being looked at properly? I mean, I've always suspected, since the days of Points of View, to be quite honest, that these things were never looked at properly, and the BBC always looked down at the public. I think it's more intense now, and I don't think these things do. Alien Airplanes is saying to us, then it should be the decision of Bad Wolf Studios if they want to fire RTD or not. Yep, or give him some sort of warnings. Now, the problem with that is because they are a private business, of course, they don't necessarily need to tell us. But when you're dealing with something like Doctor Who, I would say, actually, yes, you do. Because as we said in the show where this all came up, he's a role model. He is a role model. He's got, Kirsty will be able to tell me, I think it was very nearly 1 million people following him. Is that right, Kirst? On Instagram alone. And some of them will be young people. Now, somebody actually said to me last time, and they said kids won't look at Instagram. Yes, they will. Of course they do. They live on that bloody thing, don't they? It's nonsense. They're always showing pictures of their dinner. Dr. Howe says, doesn't TV license money go to Bad Wolf? Great point. I think some of it does. I think the BBC do put some money to BBC Studios to do that. And if that is proven to be the actual case, then that response from the BBC is not a brilliant one, is it? Let's face it. Simon is saying to us, give them time for the response to work its way through the system. If lots of other people say the same sort of thing, the Beeb will want to be seen to do something. Do you want the show to be heard? Yes, quite frankly, I bloody do. I really do. I'm going to be honest with you, Simon. I don't think the nonsense that they're churning out on television now is Doctor Who at all. No. You know, I don't look at it that way. I think it's actual now just utter PC pandering to a small minority nonsense. I really do. You know, it's not a patch on proper Doctor Who at all. And it's just churning out this nonsense. And I don't know why, because it can't be making them any money. Do I want the show to be hurt? They don't need me to want the show to be hurt, because they've done it themselves. They've done it themselves, and they get no sympathy from me. I want to say hello to Justin Yellowhair, who is joining us in the chat as well. Gary is saying the mantra is RTD is God. Mm-hmm. Sadeko, I've always felt the problem with RTD is the BBC was so desperate to have him on their staff, they let him have too much freedom on Doctor Who. Actually, Sadeko, that's an interesting point, because a mate of mine said that just earlier on before we came onto the show. He's been saying it for years. He said because, you know, RTD could go to Channel 4, which personally I believe he should, and that's where he should stay. And he should do all those brilliant, brilliant dramas about whatever social narrative he wants to publish there. But I do believe that. I think the BBC, back in the day, weren't they, guys, when it was announced that RTD was going to the BBC for this was a coup for them. They were like, yes, we've got RTD, the best thing since sliced bread, and we've got him, and he's coming back to do Doctor Who, and it's brilliant. It's not the same now.
No.
No way.
What would you two say?
No, I agree. It's not the same at all. And I think the fact that he's treated like God, really, and that he's not answerable to anyone is quite worrying, you know. To quote the Fourth Doctor, be prepared for the worst, because RTD's here. Yeah.
It is worrying, Paul. Before we came on there, you were saying something about, because I mentioned the accountability there, and you said, well, what if there is an incident that has been, and it's all alleged now, and it's all theoretical now, of course, what we're doing here, but what if there was an incident that was so bad, and it turns out to be a fan that was spurred on by this, what they would call hate? You know, that we're all guilty of this, but it's all coming from them. What if that? Who would be accountable? Because people are washing their hands, and certain people are getting a free pass on their commentary. Mm-hmm. Very, very strange. Digby, this smacks of plausible deniability. If RTD says something the viewers, i.e. the license fee payers, don't like, we can whistle. If RTD said something the Beeb don't like, he'd be out the door.
Yeah.
I think it would have to be very, 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 very bad, though, wouldn't it? I think you'd have to be a very naughty boy for the BBC to say, there's the door. Do you not think, Digby?
Well, give him enough rope to hang himself, allegedly.
Yeah. Digby's also saying to us there, one rule for the wrong opinion, another rule for management approved opinion. That, yes, spot on there. Yeah, toe the party line and you're fine. Isn't that right, Ian?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Brilliant from Digby. It's exactly how it is. I mean, like I said before, you know, we've seen in the last week with that person that was eventually fired, that Quaver woman, that, you know, the BBC procrastinated. They didn't do anything because this person wasn't spouting anything that they necessarily disagree with. It was only when it garnered a lot of public awareness and outrage that they acted. And that's all they do. They will react. They won't proact or anything like that. And as has again already been said, we can go whistle. They genuinely do not care. And this is the whole fundamental problem, is that they don't have to care because we have to pay them. And that's where it would change. If that model changed, then the BBC would change in a heartbeat, because it would have to, or it would die. And frankly, I wouldn't be sorry if it died. It's not what it used to be.
Well, I totally agree with you, and I don't think many people in the United Kingdom now would miss the BBC at all if it disappeared, because we've certainly got a couple of generations that don't bother with it, as we now know, and those that do are there for political reasons only. We've got a certain age group that are there because that's the only thing they know, but they've got our age group who are rebelling against it, saying, oh, look, there's other things coming up now. Cancel the license fee, not paying for you, not even going to say anything about all the people that don't pay for the license fee and watch the show anyway, because they don't really understand that they necessarily have to have a TV license fee. I'm not even going to say anything about that. 21st Century Boy, nice to see you. It's a typical demarcation dispute within the departmentalization of the BBC. Yes, you're right. I mean, but I just thought you'd be very, very interested in the actual response that we got after querying, thinking it's about a BBC flagship show, apparently, and it seems they can all run rampant with whatever views and comments they want to make, and there is no repercussions, it seems. It doesn't seem that way at all, does it? And if there is, we're not hearing about them. Oh, goodness me, there's a load coming up here. Thank you all so much for your chats and what you're saying. Gary is saying to us, your complaint will be passed on to RTT, who will reply tough. Tony is saying RTD probably has something on the Beeb. I don't even think it's that. I think it's just the fact that they're so desperate to think he can bring the viewers in. We'll go look at the previous 4 episodes he's just produced. Didn't bring the viewers in at all. We've talked about that on the show as well. Yeah, I mean, goodness me. Thank you very, very much for everybody that's saying it. What's this? That thinking is also Bad Wolf are representing the BBC in a prime time slot on a Saturday evening, and it seems the BBC just want to go la la la, cover their eyes and ears, as long as the money rolls in. Yeah. I totally agree with that as well. But let's see if the money is rolling in. You know, let's see. Oh, and Kirsty is saying that on Instagram, RTD has 286,000 people following. And, you know, nobody can tell me some of them aren't kids and that the kids aren't looking at Instagram. Of course, the kids are looking at Instagram. You know, I don't know any of these young people that are not on there, for heaven's sake. It's their life, it seems. That and the other one, Toki Tiki. What do you guys think about that?
He's explicitly stated that they target kids. He's explicitly stated that you have to go for the kids. I think that's a direct quote, isn't it? Is that quote for quote, or do I need to tag allegedly on the end of that?
Take it allegedly at that as well, because I can't remember the exact line and I don't have it to hand.
Are you referring to a moment within the Star Beast? You mean the Star Beast Unleashed program? You mean
Yes.
I think
yeah. And so he is going to be more than aware what his audience is made up of on Instagram and certainly TikTok. That is that generation, which bizarrely don't really watch TV, and he knows what he's doing, and he's definitely aiming for them.
Oh, totally. And it's all out there, isn't it? I mean, somebody's just said there to us, it's all about the message now. And it really, really is. And Darren is right about this one as well. RTD is a cult figure in their eyes, a messiah and not a naughty boy. And that's what he's made himself into, though, hasn't he, Darren? He has made himself into that to make sure that he appears relevant. He has jumped on these various bandwagons. We all know the bandwagons I'm talking about. Forgetting the bigger picture, forgetting truths, forgetting basis and common sense. And they kiss his arse, don't they? And he can get away with it. And we've just proved categorically that he can put anything he wants on his social media and know he's safe. Know that nobody is going to challenge him. And I certainly don't see any of the management, such as it is from Bad Wolf, challenging him at all, because they're all part of that cult. They're all part of that. And I can't see any repercussions from this at all. What are you saying, Paul?
I guess again, I can hear the echoing voice of Mr. Eccleston from that convention. Yeah, I can hear it coming out. So yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So this is Dalek I Love You is saying to us, the BBC may not employ RTD, but they are happy to support and promote his personal politics and ideology on their platform. Surely the BBC has some responsibility. Great point. You're all making extremely good points here. Really, really good points. And I hope the BBC get to see this particular show. I really do, because this is not good enough. This is not good enough. Simon is saying, I hope they don't. This must be in context of what's going on in the chat. Doctor Who is an aspect of our civilization. Civilization should be protected, but there are bigger issues out there. Okay. Raymond. Hi, Raymond. No anticipation or excitement for it coming back. More Yasmin Finney, Jinx Monsoon, and The Message. Totally. Totally. But we will be here, of course.
Oh, yeah.
It's only about 3.5 months to go, maybe only 3 months.
I'm trying to be nice. We're going to be reviewing them.
Yeah.
I'm objectively,
of course,
for you guys, I've already decided I don't like it. And I won't be objective.
That's very fair, GT. It's very fair.
Well, I'm going in with this only because we're going to do that's what we do on the channel. But I'll be going in saying, no, don't like this. If something surprises me, I'll tell you. But from what we've been through with him over the last few years, I'm prepared to hate every blooming minute of this. I really am. So I'm being honest with you all, Who viewers. I will probably crucify it if we're allowed to say.
Well, I think he's had his chance to prove to you what he was going to provide in the 60th and the Christmas. And if you don't like it, then that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
If you can't raise your game for a 60th anniversary, then you aren't going to do anything in a subsequent series that's going to be setting the world alight. If you can't raise the game for the 60th anniversary, no way.
Yeah. Hello, Matt. Matt, the silent Wii Music King is with us. RTD, is he an idiot or was he brainwashed by Chibnall? He wasn't brainwashed by anybody, to be honest. This is stuff that his politics, it all stems from this TQI cult that's going on that he's fallen in with, and therefore everybody around him has. So it all comes from that. Gary is also saying here, the BBC are the sheep and Bad Wolf are the sheep dogs. I love that. That's clever stuff. Playing on the Bad Wolf scenario as well. Listen, it's fantastic. Everything that you're saying. Timescales is with us. Greetings from San Francisco. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for all your comments here. This is great. Is it worth dropping a line now to Bad Wolf over this, JT? Enough is enough. It could be. And I think actually, guys, we might actually do that. We might forward that email that we've had from the BBC with the examples we've had to Bad Wolf and see if we get a response. How does that sound to everybody?
That would be interesting to see what response you get. They'll be much the same, probably. They'll get the same line from Bad Wolf about him, saying, something like that. That came in the BBC thing, probably.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if there's a standard. Sorry, Ian, go on.
Yeah.
No, it's all right. I'm just saying. I think their responses will be very aligned, and I think you might get more traction with, or we might get more traction if we wrote to the culture secretary in the government and local MPs. Especially if local MPs are Conservative MPs, which in Scotland, let's face it, they probably won't be. But our local MP is the youngest one of them all. He's about 5, and he's also called Keir. He got elected in a by-election about 3 or 4 months ago, but he is, I think, literally still a fetus. allegedly. Can't always go to Parliament because he's still doing his O-levels.
He's in nursery. Yeah. So.
We'll have a look at that, Who Viewers. Let us
Yeah.
know what you think we should do now. Should we leave this to rest or should we take it on further? Are any of you going to be taking this on further? We now know that we can't get it through to the BBC because this is the sort of response we're going to get back to say it's nothing to do with us and he's not a staff member, therefore we can't do anything, even though you've made incredibly valid points here in the chat on this particular show about how Doctor Who is still a BBC property and how there should be some responsibility there. Let's see what happens next, shall we? Let's see
Maybe
where
you should get Mr. Levine to do another kind of campaign song.
No, one was enough. All right. But anyway, let's have a look and see where that goes. I thought you'd be interested in that. That was an update from the show that we did last week, where we talked about the fallout from that very simple exchange between the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition, which went completely out of control and has sort of now died off, thankfully, because it was all nonsense. And everybody on X has probably gotten a headache, but when have they never? Talking of headaches, I'm sure there were a few headaches at the recent Radio Times covers party. Why on earth do these people have to go to a Radio Times covers party? I don't know. It seems another one of these highly pretentious show business affairs for me. They all get glammed up and they go along and look at a lot of covers going, ooh, that's me, and ooh, doesn't that look comfy? This one was extremely comfy because it was at Claridge's. If you've never heard of Claridge's in London, look it up. I've been lucky enough to be there myself once in my life. Absolutely stunning, absolutely gorgeous. But that's where the latest Radio Times covers party was there. And guess who was there? Yes, it was Jodie Whittaker and Mandip Gill, who played... well, that was my question. But apparently they played the 13th Doctor and the 13th Doctor's companion. Yeah, so they were there at Claridge's in London at this Radio Times covers party. And who did they bump into? Apart from our very own Katie Manning. And as you can see here, what the Radio Times seems to do is celebrate the covers of the Radio Times down the ages. Now, surely this is ridiculous because they're doing it every year.
Yeah.
They seem to do it every year. So when are they going to run out? I don't understand.
The trouble was, during Classic Who, we got the occasional Radio Times. With New Who, it was every other week.
Yeah. Well, it was, wasn't it? Really, yeah. But it does seem to be, a real excuse for all these people to get together and have some drinky poos and just blether. And
is that Warris just saying there? That's a lovely one with Warris. That's nice.
Yes, that's Warris and Lenny Henry's there on the right as well.
Yeah.
Whoop whoop. How exciting!
Well, it was, yeah. But it was at this particular event that Jodie Whittaker, allegedly the third Doctor, well, apparently she suddenly realised that she'd been part of a 60-year-old show, because what she said to the Radio Times is, it's emotional being referenced in the show. To be part of the canon, she said, and its reference points is really magical. Now, while I'm reading this out, I want you to answer this question in your head. I get the distinct impression that everybody that worked on the Chibnall era thought they were going to get the boot and pushed out of the canon. And I'll show you why. Because as part of the article, Radio Times reports Jodie Whittaker has said it's emotional to see her era of the show being referenced in new episodes of Doctor Who. Showrunner Russell T Davies has made various references to previous seasons of the show, including the Timeless Child arc and the Flux from Chris Chibnall and Whittaker's 3 seasons. Speaking exclusively to RadioTimes.com at the Radio Times covers party, Whittaker said, it's amazing. It's so emotional as well, because for us, it was such a present thing. We were in it and we were living in it in real time. And now to be part of the canon and reference point, it's really magical. I get the impression that, as I say, though, what do you think? I honestly believe, and I've got some stuff here from Chris Chibnall as well, because we know that Russell T Davies said he was going to, quote unquote, he won't unwrite, quote unquote, Chibnall. He's not going to do that. He told that to SFX magazine, didn't he? He said to SFX magazine, this is Russell T Davies, let's stare that question right in the eye. I am not going to unwrite my good friend Chris Chibnall's work on the Timeless Children. I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to deny what he wrote. I'm going with it. It's absolutely fine. And then also from RadioTimes.com, it gets me as a surprise. Chibnall himself says, it's one of the things we talked about, Stephen Russell and I, when we met up. And it was the thing Stephen was saying. You don't feel like the work you've done on the show is Doctor Who because that's the work you've done. So when you do get things that crop up that kind of reference. And actually, when I would drop in references to Stephen's stories or something Russell had done, I would get texts from them. Stephen would go, I was mentioned in Doctor Who. Something I thought of was mentioned in Doctor Who. It's great. You know I exist. It's really true. All this is really powerful, says Chibnall, and how you deploy that and when you deploy that is really interesting, because it's that weird push and pull between being new and being part of a continuum. And that's one of the great, great things about Doctor Who. Yeah. Oh, hopefully Paul will come back in a second. But what do you think on that, Ian? I mean, the fact that what's happening there, basically, the shock, they do seem to be in utter shock. That
the way that sounds, it sounds a little bit creepy, almost like they're in kind of like a mutual self-love club where they reference each other and run away with a box of Kleenex. It sounds wrong on so many different levels that it's just like, let's just slot something in so it makes Stephen happy tonight. Let's just make Mr. Chibbs feel a little bit happy tonight. I'll make a reference there in this episode. It's creepy. And it's self-indulgent, I think. Sorry, Paul.
So, okay, I was going to say something about the writing aspect of things. If you're not going to change Chibnall's entry into the canon, if they call it that, then you can't really be changing stuff that other people have done in the past, like Terry Nation or Robert Holmes. Why are you changing things? If it's good enough to keep his continuity, why can't we keep ours?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And Chibnall unwrote everybody's, didn't he? By making thousands of doctors before Hartnell. And as for Whittaker being canon, I mean, shot out of the canon maybe, but that's the only canon I want to think of there about.
I can see a bit of a pattern developing. Anything we don't like gets kept in. Anything we like gets taken out.
Well, it's true. It absolutely is true, isn't it? And it just surprises me, though, that we are aware of certain, I'm going to have to use the word rumours here, even though we know they probably happened, but we are aware of what happened towards the end of that time with Chibnall. We are aware of all this. And I genuinely believe that they are stunned by the fact that they are part of this, this whole thing, and that they are being referenced. It's as though they were coming in to think, none of us is going to matter. We're going to be written off. Am I the only one that gets that impression, by the way? Because every time I see something from him, Chibnall was delighted, wasn't he? He was so surprised. Because I remember him once saying as well, I don't expect Russell to actually acknowledge anything I've done, or words to that effect. And I think that must have been the feeling for them here because of what they were, from the massive failure of that version of the series.
They've clearly not watched any Doctor Who in general, apart from their own era, because it happens all through the series from the start to now. There's lots of references to different things, different eras. It happens through the entire series. Obviously, they've not watched any episodes prior to Chibnall's era at all.
Yeah. Kirsty's saying there, that's what you get for not doing your homework in the first place.
Yeah.
Blue Worm is saying, says the woman who didn't bother researching the canon. I can't believe that. That's absolutely right. Dave Mullen is here saying, no matter how hard, how long they try, that era will never be popular. Never. But they keep trying to sell it as a success. Well, of course they do, because it was the first ever female playing the Doctor, wasn't it? And it can't be seen to fail at all. And so, David, you're absolutely right. They're going to do that. Tony mentioned there, the Timeless Children. I'm coming out in hives now, as many fans will be.
Yeah.
Gary is saying RTD won't unwrite the greatest Doctor ever. Oh, no, he can't ever that. No, he's not going to. And we saw that in the alleged 60th anniversary specials. He's building on it, isn't he? And then it came out in that Christmas thing. Ugh, awful. Hello, Dada Debaser. Nice to see you again with your lovely carry-on avatar there. They all speak from the same echo chamber. They won't unwrite anything. And doesn't it come through? One of these days, Doctor Who will get somebody in charge that won't care and will just say, see all that? It was nonsense. Whoosh.
I have a prediction. I reckon that after Shooty, we'll get another woman.
I give you a prediction. I think that after Shooty, the show will come off air because nobody will be watching it by then. It'll be a massive, massive failure. And they would have spent millions on it. That's what I'm predicting, Paul.
I hope you're right, but I reckon they're going to drag it out forever.
Well, they'll get to their 20th anniversary, 20th anniversary of the reboot, party. And that's quite soon if my math is right. Is it next year?
Next year.
It's next year. This is year 19, isn't it? Unbelievable, isn't it? It's like you were saying as well, Ian. You know, in the original series, look at the season we got for season 19 there.
Yeah.
You know, and
yeah, when it was 12 years old, we got the season that had Genesis of the Daleks in it.
Yeah.
And when this series of Doctor Who was 12 years old, 2017, we got The Woman Who Fell to Earth. Go figure.
Yeah.
You know.
and then it went down from there, and it's not going to. I swear to you,
kept falling.
it's not going to recoup from
It
this.
all the way, wasn't it?
Yeah, they've got 8 episodes coming in May. They haven't made any friends. They've alienated more fans than ever. I'm saying it now. It's going to be a flop. Doug Sims. There seems to be a lot of backslapping and self-congratulations. Yes. And that's the hypocrisy of show business, isn't it, for you? They love themselves. Spot on, Ian, says Digby Strawbridge. I never appreciated how the Tavern Cabal just created glorified fanfic. Well, it's true, isn't it? It is all fan fiction, a lot of it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And didn't the Flux didn't that supposedly that, you know, I'm Yorkshire, admittedly North Yorkshire, but I'm Yorkshire, and that just her speaking in that South Yorkshire accent just grates on me, especially when she went Flux. But didn't that supposedly, apart from Earth, which was shielded by all the Calvinista ships, allegedly, didn't that destroy pretty much the entire universe?
See, you've lost me.
Yeah.
I
wanted to say something. I'm impressed by your reference points there, Ian. You've watched it more than I thought you might have done.
Yeah,
remember so much of it.
There's one or two of them. There's one or two that I actually fell asleep in and never went back to rewatch.
Yeah.
That one where I woke up and Graham was having his conversation about, you know, I've
the cancer one.
Will it come back? And she's like, "Don't really care. You're a white bloke. Fuck off." You know, it was that was literally her attitude to him. And I didn't go back and rewatch the episode to find out what had come from it. But it, God, honestly,
from what I mean, what do you guys think in the chat as well? From what they keep saying and what Whittaker said at the Radio Times covers party, do you think that they are genuinely surprised that they are still recognised? I do. I think they all departed BBC Wales when they finished their seasons thinking that's not going anywhere, because they all knew it was a massive resounding failure. So let me know what you're thinking here. We've got the thinking saying here, it was sold to the Chibnall era actors and staff as an alternative universe. I bet that's why now it's such a gobsmack moment to them that they are still being referenced. Lex Kane, Jodie Whittaker is not my doctor and never will be. I will never watch it. I stopped when with Capaldi's last episode. I saw the regeneration scene of Jodie Whittaker and said, not Doctor Who anymore. You are really, really not on your own there. Lots and lots and lots of people have said that. As we've seen, people are not coming back to the show. And a lot of fans are still moving on, aren't they? You know, I mean, look at us here. We're just sort of like, oh, please. And they add to it by presenting their politics in quite a vociferous way. It's bang in your face. It really is. You know where they all stand. And we're not all on the same page. These people have wrecked canon and made the show unwatchable, says Digby. Raymond is saying, RTD just created by generation. He's just as bad as Chibnall, worse because he had talent. Had been the word, I would say. That's my opinion. Blue Worm is also saying to us, Whittaker ought to worry about getting her career back on track after ruining one of the best loved characters in history. Well, she just had a film that's not going to be shown now on Netflix, hasn't she?
Yeah.
For whatever reason they've got there. That's, I mean, she won't care because she got paid, but it still must hurt because you put all that work into it, don't you? And all that, I'd say research, but I don't know if she does that, you know, whatever. Oh dear. Matt is actually saying female doctors now look bad. Well, they never really looked good anyway. None of us wanted one. It was just tick box, wasn't it, Matt? Let's be honest. We never asked for it, and it wasn't in the story of the Time Lord himself. He was always a he, and that was established in the original series. I'll stand by that one completely and utterly. We've got some great stuff here. After Shooty, they will cast a real alien as the Doctor. They may have to, won't they, Doug? They might have to do that.
That's a good point. If you're not allowed to play a character unless you're that niche person, you know. So yeah.
Exactly. So they will have to find an alien that can act.
Good luck with that.
Absolutely. You've got a hell of a lot coming here about what you've just said there, Ian, as well, about the Flux. Gosh, lots and lots of comments coming through. Thank you so much.
Yeah, with that Flux thing, like I said, it was supposedly destroyed the entire universe apart from Earth, which was shielded. So Russell T Davies, if he ever goes off planet for any stories, he's unwriting Chibnall's work, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's backed himself into a corner, really. If he's made Flux canon, then there is no universe for the Doctor to travel in. He is as earthbound, or whatever, as earthbound as Pertwee was at the start.
Yeah.
No getting away from it.
That nonsense to me. I mean, as somebody who wasn't involved with that era at all, that's just ridiculous. That's not what Doctor Who's about. You know, Doctor Who is about a Time Lord in his TARDIS traveling through time and space and across the universe fighting monsters. So why would anybody be so stupid enough to destroy the entire universe he's traveling around in? That is just ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, that's just silly. It's just silly. I don't understand that. So that has to be, there are elements that have to be retconned of that.
I think they were considering, though we've said this before, that the Chibnall era was the end of Doctor Who. That was it. So they were trying to wrap it up, I think. And the Timeless Children, in a way, was kind of an explanation to wrap it up, which they didn't expect to get more Doctor Who with Disney, did they, really, at that point?
Yeah.
Well, no, they didn't, but it's still a stupid thing to do because they could have brought it back in 15 years, couldn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, goodness me, what are these people on? They're trying to be clever and they just come across as stupid. Simon is saying to us here, I joined this group to share and grow my appreciation with the show. I have to pick out the good bits from a lot of the last 60 years. Sylvester shows were a problem for me, but I grew to like them. Well, that's great. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. I think we did. I've grown to like season 17 since the standard edition Blu-ray was released. I now appreciate it a lot more. But I can't see it happening with the Jodie Whittaker, Chris Chibnall era of Doctor Who. I cannot see that happening. There are too many people like us who just refuse to acknowledge it, won't have anything to it, and it destroyed everything we knew. I mean, the guys have just given you a few examples there, Simon, as well. That is not what you do to a fan base as strong as a Doctor Who fan base. You really, really don't do that at all. Tony's asking here, what happened to Time Lords and Time Ladies? Well, yeah, I don't think you're allowed to have that in there. It's probably problematic, isn't it?
It's time people now, isn't it? Yeah. So.
Yeah. Kirsty is saying to you, if you don't hit the like and subscribe button, Chibs will be at the bottom of your bed. Now, that's a real nasty thing to say, Kirsty. Behave yourself in the chat, Kirsty. Young
That's
lady.
a scary thought, Kirsty. I have to say, yeah.
There's a lot of conversations going on now about what happened in the Chibnall era. So thank you very much there. But I thought it just surprised me, the tone. It surprised me, the tone of that, to be able to, oh my God, it's so wonderful that we're in the show. Oh my God, this show that's been going for 60 years and here we are. And I genuinely believe they expected to be written off and to have everybody rebooted and started again, which is what I would have done if I was in charge of the show, to be quite honest. I would have started again completely and got rid of all that number stuff. So
she was such a brilliant woman, wasn't she?
From that awful Cheryl and the Knee thing. What they've done here, guys, is they've created an absolute monster, and not in a good way. This is an absolute mess. Monster mess, trademark. Monster mess now for Doctor Who, isn't it? They've, and they've got themselves in knots because they've got to do this and they've got to do this and they've got to do this. Shocking. Going to be interesting moving forward, I think. Moving forward, and talking about that, staying with the Radio Times as well. David Tennant is going to be at the BAFTAs, hosting the BAFTAs this forthcoming weekend. He's on the cover of this week's Radio Times, and he's hit the Radio Times headlines, and therefore ours, by saying this. David Tennant says Doctor Who special is very much the end of the story. The Doctor is perfectly happy in Chiswick, he assures fans.
Yeah.
So basically,
well, he knew Doctor Who then, you know, because the Doctor hated being exiled to Earth, even though he was with the Brigadier and friends. He hated it. Was constantly trying to get away. If that Doctor is happy, then it shows how little they understood the show.
Yeah, exactly. But
Absolutely.
there are rumours circulating that he's in the finale, but and they're trying to backpedal on that. So that could be what's going to happen.
Well, this is this article that he said. Actually, there's the cover for this, the Radio Times, which if you're into that, it's available now for you. And so let's have a look at what the article says with him. It says here, David Tennant has debunked the rumours that he could reprise the role of the Doctor in Doctor Who following the uplifting ending. What? The uplifting ending to the final 60th anniversary special. You have to laugh. The recent trilogy came to its conclusion as the 14th Doctor by Tennant faced off against the Toymaker, Neil Patrick Harris, whose brutal attack provoked a regeneration. Or, at least, that's what it seemed initially. Instead, fans witnessed, and I'm going to add here in horror, a bi-generation in which 14 split apart from the incoming 15th Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa, before teaming up to take on their longtime nemesis together. He countered, this is Tennant, you could also say, why has Patrick Troughton not landed here? It unpicks if you think about that too much. I'm retired. The 14th Doctor is retired. It seems then that fans shouldn't expect a reunion for Tennant and Gatwa anytime soon, as some have speculated, but the former star did acknowledge the show is a huge part of his life and his temporary return was a real treat. The door is not any more open than it ever was, says Tennant, because in Doctor Who, if you want to bring someone back, there are endless ways of doing it. It's very much the end of the story. And to be quite honest, a lot of Doctor Who fans thought that was the end of the story and didn't come back for Gatwa, did they really? Because it wasn't even the same Doctor Who that I remembered. And I keep looking at this thinking, why did he come back anyway? Why? What was the point? It didn't have the mega ratings result I'm sure they were all hoping for. The character was totally a rip-off of the 10th Doctor. So why didn't they just put a traditional story, Paul, where it's the 10th Doctor and Donna before those wonderful events of Stolen Earth Journey's End?
Exactly, that would be perfect. Just slot it in season 4 somewhere. Yeah, exactly. But it's just bizarre because I don't understand the references in the quotes from David Tennant that the Doctor can't come back. There are umpteen times the Doctor's come back for various reasons. And the Patrick Troughton reference is nonsense. He was in the Two Doctors. He met Colin Baker. Okay, they bumped into each other. Okay, there's some kind of time ripple going on, but they met each other. In story terms, narrative terms, you can do it any time you like. And also the regeneration. I don't understand. The Doctor retires because he's knackered. He's exhausted from all his life. What's regeneration for?
Yeah.
It regenerates you to make you another person, and you're fresh and you're new again. You're being renewed, as Troughton said in Power of the Daleks. He's a new person. So why retire him? Just do a proper regeneration, have some emotion with it, and then let Ncuti move on. God's sake.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I thought that whole bi-generation thing was horrific. I just don't get it. I understand that occasionally with long-running sci-fi shows, you have to put something new in there, but not when it comes to a pivotal plot device like that one, which was one of the most clever ideas for a long-running show and ensured the series' success, successful years that came after, ensured its future. You don't mess with that format at all because this has led to too many questions, which obviously the Radio Times put some of them to David Tennant, and he didn't like the questions. He couldn't answer them, whatever. And he's come up saying, "The Doctor's retired. He's retired. He's quite happy in Chiswick." That's not the Doctor we know, is it? The Doctor in any of his incarnations, apart from these new faffy modern versions, wouldn't settle down underneath a lovely umbrella and let Mel Bush bring him a lovely salad or whatever it was.
Well, he's already contradicted himself in the episode. If you dare to look back and remember, when he's sitting around the table having afternoon lunch or whatever they're having, they talk about the Doctor going on a trip with Mel or going on a trip with Rose. So it's like he's still travelling about. So he's not settled at all. That's nonsense.
Yeah, that whole thing was just, what the hell was that about? Gosh, it was really as silly. We've got Doug saying to us here, never thought I'd say this, but I'm a bit over David Tennant. Now, do you know what though, Doug? I think the majority of people are. And certainly he's made, I'm not going to say enemies. He's made people that just don't like him anymore because of his personal politics, which happen to tie in, of course, with Russell Don't Drop the T Davis. They're all on the same page there, wearing T-shirts. Let's have a look at this weekend then and see what he turns up wearing at the BAFTAs. I bet you he's going to have some sort of non-binary or T-issue badge or some sort of nonsensical thing like that, which won't be based in reality. I guarantee you. And if they do, we'll talk about it here on Headlines on Who's Views. But I think a lot of people are over Tennant now because they also didn't get the millions that everybody assumed they were going to get. You know, it got what was it, 4 million or something like that overnight? So ridiculous, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Everything that they built up, everything, all that love that they generated, not just for Tennant, but that pairing with Donna, the Doctor and Donna. That was a really, really good season. I loved that season. They worked really, really well. There was no romantic element between them. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And now I look back on Tennant's 14th emasculated woke Doctor being corrected on pronouns, and I think, Tennant, you've now just messed over your entire, I'm trying to be polite or unusual, but he's just messed over his entire legacy for the 10th Doctor as well. And Catherine Tate with the cocky, you know, shame you're not a female anymore, because she'd have understood all that arrogant shit that she came out with. Now the original Donna, all that, that season is gone for me now.
It's ruined, isn't it? Completely.
Yeah,
That still gets me as well. The complete lack of understanding of the character. If you're going to include the female Doctor, it's still the Doctor. So the Doctor has all that in himself, female, male, whatever. So he's not missing all that. It's not gone. It's still there. You know.
Yeah.
And it was really tragic that Donna's story as well was lovely with the mind wipe and all that. It was really beautifully done. And they just, as you said, they messed all over it, Ian, and which really killed it. You know.
Well, they flushed it down the toilet, because I still don't understand how that whole big dramatic end, which affected everybody, I think, that was watching, not just fans but the British public, because it got huge ratings with the public like Doctor Who. Then how was it resolved?
Let it go.
Pathetic. Let it, we can't sing, but
you
and
can't
I
do
think
Frozen. You can't do Frozen.
I think, Ian, you've actually answered a question from Alien Airplanes. So hopefully Alien Airplanes, who asked what did Tennant and Tate do that was so bad, hopefully Ian has answered your question there. They didn't, in my opinion. I'll just add to what Ian said there. Tennant, as a fan, should have questioned the script. I can forgive Tate, because Catherine doesn't know anything about sci-fi, so she thinks everything is fabulous because it's all been given to her by people she trusts. So I can forgive Catherine Tate, because we know that she just comes up and she does a great job with what she's given, but she doesn't understand anything about it. And I love that about Catherine Tate. She's not a sci-fi person at all, but she managed to do a fantastic job in the original series she was in. She even pulled this one off, I think, with lines that was given to her, but she wouldn't have questioned it because she doesn't know. She thinks that's where we all are, and certainly from her point of view in show business, that's where they all are. But the viewing public and the fandom isn't all there. We know that. So, but Tennant, I think he should have been responsible enough to say, "Is this really the way you want to go?" But we know his politics now, so there we go. It's and he alienated some of the public as well here in the United Kingdom. Dada is saying we'll probably get Matt Smith again when the show hemorrhages. Do you know what though, Dada? I hope not, because he's too big and he's too bloody good.
Yeah.
And he's about to take the West End stage in London in a particular show, and I believe the ticket sales are fantastic. So congratulations to Matt Smith and all the team that are doing that particular show there down at the West End in London, and good luck to them all. Let's have a look. The only Tennant Doctor is the 10th Doctor, says Matt. Absolutely. The flame regeneration, says Lex Kane, has been too much. Classic Who regeneration was fantastic, and it's surprised how the Doctor regenerated. Totally. Totally. And we talk about this a lot, about those sort of things. It seems to me as well that an awful lot of people are now, because the reboot version or the reboot version isn't necessarily giving them anything to attach onto, they are going back to the original. And I see that coming through from this show and some of the messages and some of the comments that are made to this. Oh, we love this. We love this. And I like that people are going back to the original show and looking at the variation. And because it's accessible to anyone, no matter where in life you stand, you can watch original Doctor Who. Well, most people can. without so we've dealt with that on this show as well. Tony is saying it will be in his speech as well, JT. You might well be right. I will not be watching the BAFTAs. So if anybody is, don't forget you can get in touch with us at whosviews1@gmail.com for any of the news. I'm going to be hopefully relying on the guys here for that as well. Star Whovian, nice to see you. I always felt that David Tennant wasn't very enthusiastic about the specials, going by how he talked about them in interviews before they aired. Oh, really? Now they've been released, I can see exactly why. That's interesting. I didn't really see much about him, by the way, before that. I wasn't really that interested. I thought, oh, no, I'll wait to see what you say afterwards. And then when it came to looking at afterwards, I don't want to know anything he was saying. They were joking, says Simon. Who were? I've missed something. Sorry, Simon, I've missed something there, but I don't know who we're joking, but there you go.
I wonder how much of the specials were re-edited or reshot, like the Christmas special.
I don't know. Maybe
In terms,
one day.
in terms of interference and changing the narrative and the message, etc., in it from Disney or BBC.
It's hard to say now, isn't it? Because they're all in the same bed, aren't they? Really, when it comes to the politics, and we know what Disney's like as well. And that's another conversation completely, isn't it? Goodness me. And we'll have to wait and see if we can spot. There's a game we'll do, Who Viewers, when the show comes back. Remind me of this, guys, when we do our introduction to this. Spot the Disney influence. Trademark.
Yeah.
We'll sort this out. Hang on.
Spot the reshoots, yeah. Spot the reshoots, yeah.
Every time you spot one, we'd be shit-faced in 10 minutes, probably.
Yeah, take a drink every time. Yeah, good idea, yeah. Can we do that live? That'd be quite fun.
Oh dear, we're having too much fun on this show now, everybody. Sudeiko's saying to us, the saddest part is I think Tennant still got it as the Doctor, maybe even better at it now, but he felt wasted by making his comeback all about the propaganda. I'd love to agree with you, mate, but he actually believes all that stuff.
He's on board with it, isn't he?
He's totally on board with it.
So was his missus.
Oh, well, we know that. And then we talked the other week about, of course, how she got well, she on X. I believe that David Tennant Captain Tate will be back for more specials.
Partners in Time coming soon.
Yeah, although he's saying, of course, in the Radio Times, no, it's not happening. And Dave is saying, I felt Tennant in the mortar holding these specials together. He was terrific, but no one could have sold those last 20 minutes. No one. Up until then, I think there was the two scenes that alienated me, Dave. The one in the front room where they're doing all that pronoun crap, which I just will not accept. And then that whole ending where I just made the audible, what the hell? It was just insulting my intelligence, really, quite frankly. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Yep. Thank you very much for your comments, as I say here. Matt Smith was great in Last Night in Soho, said Tony. Stunning. Absolutely, totally agree with that. Matt is saying, if Tennant comes back as the 16th Doctor, I will rage. I honestly don't think he can, Matt, because the public backing is no longer there. And they've just, as the guys were saying there, ruined their legacy to an extent because it didn't have the huge success that I think everybody, including the BBC, thought. I think Tennant himself is also a bit of Marmite.
I mean, whether you like Shooty or not as the Doctor, it really weakened his chances of being on his own and doing his own thing, I think, as well. Yeah.
Hiya, Daniel. Daniel is here saying the agenda. David is sadly on board with all this stupidity. That's why he came back, not for the show or his own era. And he's glad that he's left after Davros's change. Absolutely. Oh, and that reminds me as well, we are currently in the middle of our We Love Davros season here on News Views. If you haven't seen that, we'll be back at the weekend with our big discussion show about our favourite Davros moments, our favourite lines, our favourite Davroses. We'll have the result of our We Love Davros vote, which is on the community tab right now. And we'll also, of course, be talking about RTD and Davros and sending a really big message to leave him alone. Oh, no holds barred on this channel, I tell you. Okay, so we've got all that going on. So fantastic. Yes, so, well, do you know what? It's all there. Fantastic. David, you know, you might not be coming back there, but you know what? There's always Big Finish. Or is there?
Well, he's done a fair amount of that as well. He's done loads.
Yes, but is there always Big Finish now? Because we're now coming up to this story here that has been, and thanks to the Thin King for sending me some information about this as well, and problem being too, because apparently, do you remember Absent Friends? Absent Friends was the story that was cancelled, and the reason it was cancelled that a couple of years ago now, John Barrowman, of course, was getting a lot of flack from people on what was then Twitter, which is now X, of course, when they found out he'd done something like 10 or 15 or 20 years earlier, which was dealt with at the time during the first couple of years of the reboot Who. And they got hold of it and it all came out and they really went to town with it, didn't they, guys, on social media? And they were calling him for everything. And it was absolutely ridiculous because it was all dealt with at the time. So why these people have to go back and dig things up and start all over again, I've no idea. But because of that, the producers and the production company Big Finish thought that this particular CD would be put on the shelf, and it hasn't seen the light of day since. And a lot of people have forgotten it. Paul, do you remember this as somebody who was buying Big Finish?
I do remember this, yeah, and I was quite looking forward to it. I like the characters together; they're quite fun. But I do think the Bannerman thing is blown out of proportion. I think, and the fact that Bannerman was cancelled was ridiculous, honestly. But I do remember this, and I think it's such a bizarre thing to do. You have to kind of stand your ground and have an opinion. And I think Big Finish have just done what they did with James Dreyfus, allegedly just cancelled Bannerman.
All at the same time, wasn't it?
Yeah, we'll just shelf it, and it's a bit chicken, to be honest. It's a bit scaredy cat, to be fair.
It is. It's ridiculous. And, you know, it all comes at the same time, because these people are not going to be happy until the world is exactly what they want it to be. And I've got a message for them. It's never going to be the way you want it to be, because the more you push your agenda, the more people will rebel against you. It's as simple as that. That's democracy, you idiots. You cannot enforce your opinions and your way of life on other people. It causes wars. Why have they not learnt from the past? But this has actually cropped up again over the last few days, this Absent Friends. It was actually written by a very competent writer as well, James Goss. So, I would imagine it would be a pretty good one. So this has come out. I saw some tweets about this as well, which I haven't put on screen, but I can read one out for you here. This has come from a particular person on X. I've seen people talking about Absent Friends again. And my take is that Big Finish should just release it. Barrowman's not going to say that word, begins with a C, but he wasn't the only person who worked on it. Also, I just love some 10th Doctor Ianto content, and I bet they're hilarious together. So although that's a sort of nasty sort of assumptive thing, because they're too busy jumping on bandwagons now to actually go and research. I think research is dead and buried, because these people do not do research. They just listen to other people saying things. But this poor fella on X suddenly got a load of people that would normally agree with him calling him for everything. And I'm not going to go about that at all, but they were just very nasty to him. And I was watching this poor kid going through what I went the other week, getting all this sort of stuff, because he was actually sort of balanced, judging Barrowman, whatever, but also saying I'd quite like to hear it. And there were all these things there. He did get some people saying, come back. They can't pull this anymore. It needs to go out. They got some, but they all got jumped on too. But then what came out of it all there, and I don't know if you've seen this, is because Barrowman didn't come out well at all. Actually, still, he hasn't been forgiven by these people at all. And John, I'm sorry to tell you, darling, I don't think you ever will. So don't bother with them, because they are very nasty. They're after his blood. Some of them. It's shocking. Absolutely.
I had heard that Barrowman might be appearing in Celebrity Big Brother at some point. So what will happen is if he gets back into the fold and back into show business again, and he's forgiven by some quarters by show business, I mean, then it'll be released if he gets back in. But that's questionable.
The whole thing about this is it shouldn't have come up anyway, because this whole thing, from what we can gather here, was dealt with at the time, which would have been 2004, 5 or 6. And they don't have to tell us this, because again, it was then and whatever.
And there's a context to it in terms of what he did. We won't go into any detail, but in terms of what he did, they make it appear like it was something like he was molesting children. He wasn't. You know what I mean? It's not. You know what I mean? It's not Jimmy Savile. So it's a completely different context and sort of.
And it wasn't the end of the world. It's typical hypocrisy as well, because Barrowman was known for doing all those sort of things at the time as well. He was larger than life. He's actually quite camp in certain cases as well. So everybody knew that. So but it was dealt with. That's what we're trying to say here. It was dealt with, and then all these years later, it came out again, and that meant that particular audio, which was in the can with himself, David Tennant, and
David Lloyd.
Thank you very much. Playing Ianto, was shelved. Well, over all this, it also seems that a script has leaked. And this appeared on X as well over the last few days. And I don't know if you've seen this, everybody, but this seems to be the actual script from Absent Friends. You can see all the details there. Now, I haven't got all the slides here, but actually, and I've done that out of respect, to be quite honest, because you can actually see all or majority of the script online in this format from whoever has posted this. It's all there, and you can read it very, very clearly. You can read this script, but I didn't want to put that on there because I thought that was a little bit disrespectful. But guess what else has come up? Somebody's selling it, and they're selling it for £500 plus £9.50 postage.
Wow! How much for postage? That's ridiculous.
The postage is outrageous, isn't it, Paul?
It's outrageous, yes.
Outrageous postage. But this is becoming like a shada of Big Finish, isn't it, really, for whatever reason? And this person is certainly onto something, because they've got a script from God knows where, all alleged. This is what's happening. This was what's on X, and they're selling it for £500. I mean,
is it John Barrowman?
You want my copy of it for a tenner?
have you got one?
Yeah.
No.
I was going to say.
Just some random convenient papers.
It is very, 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 very bizarre, though, isn't it? This all coming through. Timescales are saying to us here, Paul, Absent Friends was actually completed and ready for release, yes. And there was a rumor that the audio was actually leaked, which is hard to believe, because if it was leaked, it seems like it would have been. Yeah, it would have surfaced by now, wouldn't it? As you say, yeah, it would have been. What were we going to say, Paul?
I was going to say, though, if Big Finish do get a chance to release it at some point, I think sales will be very, very good, because it's had so much hype.
Do you?
yeah, honestly. Well, there are a lot of people who do buy them. There's maybe not as much as they used to, based on their business figures the past tax year. But I do think people have been in the past. This might be a good seller. Unlike Don't Buy Genesis of Terror, it's dreadful.
Ooh. There's a review for you there from Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, it is very bizarre. It just shows me again, this whole thing, because we mentioned James Dreyfus there as well. He was cancelled by it, and they removed his images from all the CD covers, so not to offend a minority, surely, of their audience. These loudmouths have made things very difficult, but it shows an utter hypocrisy of this whole industry, doesn't it? Because one minute they're going, oh, we must bow down to these people. And the next minute saying, oh, we now can't work with these people who we've been working with for years. Those people who have been cancelled possibly would have supported all that before. They've got themselves into all these knots, haven't they?
Yeah.
Raymond is saying here, John Barrowman is a great talent. He has made mistakes, but why must they punish people forever? What happened to rehabilitation, forgiveness? He can't apologize. It's not even as if he killed somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't do that. It was just horsing about, as we used to call it back in the day, when we had a sense of humour.
It was a joke, exactly. It was just a joke.
I think the thing is, though, I mean, I know, Paul, you said that you weren't going to say what he did, but JT, you didn't seem that bothered. I mean, it's in context. Waving stuff around, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, John Barrowman is very much on the LGB side of things. JT, correct me if I'm.
From my point of view, he's remained quite quiet publicly on those sort of things. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if he was, but you're not allowed to say that now, so we can't assume that. And I wouldn't like for anybody to say that, because he's had enough pile-ons as well through this.
What I'm thinking is, if he's more one side, and whoever it is that's doing the pile-on him and still wanting his blood, depending what side of the fence they're on. But when you look at the TQIAs, when they have their pride marches, they literally stand naked in the street. You've seen tweets on X from last year, where at various pride parades, they were literally standing naked with full erections in front of children. Now, that is way worse than what Barrowman did, but they think that's okay and they should be empowered to do it. Yet they still want blood for him doing something as a joke amongst friends 20 years previously. It just seems typical hypocrisy.
The bizarre thing that came out at the time was obviously the alleged scandal of Mickey and all that kind of stuff. And the video came up on YouTube, and him and Camille Kaduri were talking about John's behaviour, and that went viral, and people jumped on the bandwagon and accused Bannerman of what he's done. It's ridiculous, really. It was just a joke, simple as that. People were laughing about it in the chat when they were discussing it in conversation at a convention. They were laughing at it as a joke. It wasn't meant to be nasty at all.
No.
Yeah. But people are so hyped these days, aren't we? And this is what we do have some of the, because I have to say, a lot of these people that are getting onto him are of a certain vintage, of course they are. And they don't understand humor or irony or anything like that. And they are so goody two shoes. It's incredible. But we used to have a laugh. But you're right, Ian. Your point there about various prides is absolutely right now, because they've become something that don't recognise as a pride at all. Pride used to be fairly political. They were about, yes, our political messages at the time, which was LGBT rights, which we achieved, and now they've gone on to all this sort of stuff, and they've gone through the TQI stuff now to saying that everybody has the same rights now. I mean, that's partly down to the LGB. So thank you for that, people. It's just all hypocritical nonsense. But to actually dig things up, this is what they do. I mean, we've seen this happen before with other people, haven't we? Oh, this person said something 20 years ago, and they now need to be fired about it. And yet we've got, going back to what we were talking about at the top of the show, people making comments today, and there's no action happening.
Yeah.
I just don't understand where the world is today. Everybody, I really don't. Where are the actual relevance to things? When's the insanity of today going to be stopped? Not something that happened 20 years ago, and which was dealt with at the time, and he was told, no, don't do that again, because people might get upset. I just think this is shocking. But when you're finding something about a CD or a download that was cancelled because we can't upset the screaming minority, and then to suddenly find that the script is appearing on a well-known platform where you can buy things for 500 quid, just release the blooming audio and let those people that don't like it get on with it. Why are they frightened of these people? These bloody activists, they are all terrified of these activists. I'm terrified of them for a completely different reason, because I think they're going to blow up the world and they're all insane. But why are these businesses bending the knee all the time?
They're gutless. They have weak leadership without a spine. And I've got no time for Nick Briggs at Big Finish. My personal opinions of him aren't high, but then they never have been, going right back to the 80s. Personally, that's just me. But it doesn't surprise me that he appears allegedly to be very much enthralled to that cult. And I'll just tag allegedly on the end of that again.
Yeah, I do that a lot here because we want to.
An interesting alleged rumor, though, that he hated the Whittaker era, allegedly. So
who did?
He wouldn't dare say it.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't say anything, would they? That's going to put them out of a job. And to an extent, I can understand that. But it's such a shame we're at this position now in society around the world, where you can't agree to disagree anymore. And if you say something about us, you're going to lose your job. If you're not towing the party line, you're going to lose your job. It's just absolutely disgraceful. I think this whole thing is, Star Hoovian's making a lovely point here. Wait until they find out about the game Matt Smith and Karen Gillan used to play with new cast members on set. They'll be the next ones targeted. I remember the first year of Matt Smith when they were going on that tour, and I think they were in America. And bearing in mind that they were kids at the time, two new actors being given a show that was huge at the time, enjoying every minute, finding themselves, I think it was in New York, and they went to the pub. And what followed is they had a few drinky poos. Good for them.
They were having a ball.
Good for them, I say. Yeah, and they had a great time. A great time, but they weren't in character. They were out of costume. They were on their own time in the evenings. But I sometimes think back to that thinking, oh, well, hang on a minute. Will they go back and look at that? And will they try and cancel them for that? Because they had a lovely, lovely evening in the clubs and pubs of New York and had a few drinkies. You know what I'm getting at here. Yeah, but I say good for them, because they were young. They were enjoying it. They were in New York, for crying out loud as well. Of course you're going to do that at that age. I thought, I just worry sometimes about where else would it go, Ian.
Is that the same time that there was an alleged rumor of Karen in a hotel corridor?
I don't know anything about that one, so I don't know.
Yeah, alleged not with any clothes on. And if that was John Barrowman,
I've no idea.
Well,
he wasn't there, was he?
Shall we? So
yeah, he wasn't there at the time. It's just it just opens up. They've opened up this, and it's a case of like the adults really have to come back into the room, because you cannot really go back through somebody's timeline and say, you said this when you were 18, or you did this. Because, wouldn't it be funny if somebody in 20 years or even 15 years looked at some of these kids at their timelines now and said, you said this when you were 19 and you said this when you were 21. Ooh, you shouldn't be here and you should be doing that.
They get sectioned allegedly. So
Yeah, well, yeah. Doug is making the point that when the John Barrowman incidents happened, nobody cared at the time, and he's been cancelled retrospectively. Absolutely, and we all heard about it. We all knew about some of the antics. In fact, some of us knew about stuff. He would have fun. He would just have fun because he's a very hyperactive, and I've met him, and he's a lovely guy. You know, I'll defend John Barrowman to the last if I have to, because I think he's lovely, and he's so enthusiastic, and he's so talented. I mean, he's an all-round, what we used to call, you know, an all-round entertainer, because he can sing, he can dance, he can act, you know, he can produce if he wants to. I reckon he could be even a cracking little director because he's got a lovely eye. Oh, it does really, really upset me sometimes. Jabe Jackson, hello to you. Came to this discussion late, but the most surprising thing about Chib's time was Barrowman's return. Yeah, I'd forgotten that actually, because I never watched it. I'd forgotten he did turn up in that, didn't he? Hello, Jabe. Nice to see you. Twice,
yeah.
He was in it twice.
He's in 2 episodes, yeah. A very brief one in Fugitive of the Jadoon, and he's in the Dalek episode. I forgot the name of it.
Thing, wasn't it? Yeah.
Which one is it?
Oh, really?
One of the Christmas ones.
Yeah, I can't remember which the middle Dalek one, Revolution.
So,
I think.
So memorable. Everybody here is chomping at the bit to tell us. That's what it is there. Raymond's pointing out as well, very rightly, Noel Clarke was never arrested or charged. Not one woman made a complaint to the police. No case to answer. Still cancelled. Absolutely, and that's shocking.
Entire career destroyed.
Yes, because of that, and that was nonsensical. That whole thing there was. You had to feel for him as well, didn't you? But I'm glad to see that he's starting to get some work of his own now and doing that. So good for you, Noel. Good for you.
Interestingly, with Noel Clarke, I saw in the last few days he posted something on X where he'd said there's a new show coming on screen and it's been advertised. I don't know if it's BBC or whatever, but it's been advertised as this person's show name, and Noel's claiming that it was actually his show, and he's got all the emails where he devised it, wrote it, gave it to the guy, or involved the guy, and now the guy he involved is the one who they're saying this person's show. And he says he's got all the emails and everything that proves it. If that's how I understood the tweets correctly.
Goodness
me. If that's the case, he should destroy them because he's been woefully treated.
That industry, though, isn't it? Again, hypocrisy. The hypocrisy of it there. I mean, that's very similar to what they tried to do with Graham Linehan. They tried to buy Father Ted from him because, again, the activists had got to him for no reason at all at the time. They got no reason for him at all, apart from him stating the truth. Nobody in show business back him up. He was cancelled. He had his life ruined completely. He's now on the way back, of course, into that. But they actually, according to Graham Linehan's book, they offered him a certain amount of money to take Father Ted off him so that they could go and say it was their own, just so that they could get the money in their pockets, because people, they thought, wouldn't go to see the show if his name was attached to it. Well, bloody well, put it on now. I will go and see it, and I'll pay you stupid West End prices to go and see it, just to prove, just to say him, to support him. Joan Stonefield, loving the channel, guys. Glad I stumbled across it. Welcome. It's nice to see you. Please don't forget to subscribe. Tell your friends. Come and join us for all our shows. Lots of playlists here for you as well. Lots of back issues of the shows. This is our critical show, Headlines. The rest of the shows, we actually love Doctor Who, believe it or not. We absolutely love it. Just not necessarily the current stuff. So nice to see you. I think we can say that. We're amongst friends here in the chat, aren't we? Matt is saying his mum once met Billie Piper. Fabulous. Yeah, I met her once. That's a different story for a different show. But that's something else there for you there about that particular one. If any of you remember that one there, I would say to BF, just get it out. And I mean the CD and the download.
Yes, that's an unfortunate choice of phrase there, JT.
No, it's deliberate. It was deliberate. It's supposed to be funny. It was supposed to be a joke. Honestly, it was deliberate. We're going to stay with Big Fish very, very quickly as well, because between them and the Radio Times, who we were talking about before, again, another storm in a teacup over on social media because of this headline that I'm sure you've seen. Tom Baker's doctor takes on a new female toy maker. So, of course, they are talking about the recasting of the classic villain, the Celestial Toy Maker, as we know him on this channel, which, of course, was also in the alleged 60th anniversary specials in that one called The Giggle, when Neil Patrick Harris took it on. So this is the Big Finish casting of a woman in the role. And unfortunately, Well, they didn't put the correct picture on because that's Tom with the actress that plays the companion, if you like, in here. And I've forgotten the name, but she was in It's a Sin. So it's all keeping it in the family, isn't it? And gosh, yeah, it's just silly, really, because what happened then is various people were going into all this racist argument saying, oh, my God, they've done this to Tick Box. Oh, they've done this, they've done this. And it got a bit silly. But actually, the actress in question is the wonderful and the marvelous Annette Badland, who is coming across as the celestial toy maker in this story with the Fourth Doctor. I love Annette Badland. I think she's a cracking actress. She's a proper actress as well, as I would call her. I'm very surprised to see her in a Big Finish. No disrespect, but I really am, because she's a big actress. She's really, really good. She's got a powerful presence. She can turn her hand to everything. I love her. So when she came into Doctor Who back in 2005, I wet myself over that. I was just like, well, brilliant casting. It was great to see her in there. And I've been a fan of hers for years and years and years. So this is nothing to do with Annette Badland. She will do very well as a villain on audio, because she's got a crisp, raspy voice when she wants to as well, and she can do that very well. But the main topic here, guys, is there was never anything in fan circles to say that the Celestial Toymaker cannot present himself as a female. But is this the right thing to do, or are Big Finish just proving a point here?
Well, you mean they're just ticking boxes? You mean, yeah? I think. It's funny, Annette Badlands, I'm a big fan as well of hers, going right back to Bergerac when she was in that. And she's done Big Finish before, Lydia West, that's right. She's done Big Finish before, this is not the first time. But I just don't understand why they've just changed. Yeah, she's done a few. I can't remember the exact episodes in which Doctor. I think she's maybe done some with Tom already, in different characters, different stories. Maybe someone in the chat may know, I can't remember off the top of my head. But I don't know why they've just changed the gender for the sake of just changing it. We've just had the Toymaker recently, and he was a man, so why bother?
Yeah. Well, that's my question. What do you think, Ian?
I never really knew of Annette Badland until she was in Doctor Who in 2005, but I loved her. I thought the range that she brought to that character was amazing. When the Doctor locked himself in that room and she was standing outside with a couple of the other Slitheen, but in her human guise, and she just fixed him with that stare as the door closed. It was chilling, and I thought she was fantastic. And I loved Boomtown, where she came back. I thought that was fantastic, where she's out having a meal with the Doctor and everything else. Great, brilliant actor. So I've got nothing against her at all. It's just doing it because they can. They're doing it because they can, and it's Big Finish, which is Briggs again, I suppose, just in my opinion, just going, hello, Bad Wolf, look at what I'm doing. I'm doing what you're doing. Look at me. Do you like me now? Because I'm doing this.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, I think he's just trying to get lots of love and feels from RTD.
It's again one of those things here, because I compare this to the casting of the fantastic Michelle Gomez in as Missy. Yeah, and when her casting was announced, she was announced as the guardian of the Neversphere, and I got excited about that because I thought, oh, that's a very Doctor Who title. I like that. And because I've been a fan of Michelle Gomez as well and loved her work, I thought, oh, she's going to fit into Doctor Who brilliantly, especially against Capaldi. Oh, my God, it's going to be the Glasgow elements at work here. It's going to bounce. And then she turned out to be the master, and a female version, which we all know was done to pave the way for what eventually happened a couple of years later. And I thought, what a wasted opportunity. When you've got someone like her, give her a brand new villain to make her own and do something with. I think it's the same here for Annette Badland. Why give her an established role? Why not create a new big bad for these very talented women? Why give them something that's already been established by several fellows before them? Why not a brand new, and I'm not even talking the Rani, forget that. Yeah. Brand new character like the Guardian of the Neversphere or something Doctor Who-y like that, which they can make their own. I mean, imagine how brilliant Kate O'Mara would have felt when she thought, oh, I've got a brand new villain here to create and I know exactly what I'm going to do it. And then it becomes iconic to the point where we're still talking about it today. You can't repeat that. But it was Kate's. That was Kate. They could have done the same for Michelle on the telly, and certainly, possibly, why haven't they done the same for Annette here by creating a brand new baddie?
It's a waste of a talent, definitely. I agree with you on that. In terms of Missy, though, I think Missy could have been just Missy and not the Master at all. And Michelle Gomez was brilliant, so funny,
So
great timing, great performance. But why make her the master? Make her somebody else.
I love Michelle Gomez. I thought she was amazing in Green Wing. Absolutely.
Oh, Green Wing was fabulous, wasn't it?
Hysterical. Absolute batshit crazy.
That wouldn't get made today, Ian.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. You're absolutely right. But she was fantastic in that, and seeing her in Doctor Who was fantastic. Just that master reveal was so utterly unnecessary. And yeah, you're right. Why not give them a new character to develop? Because probably it's just too much hard work to develop one and write one. It's easier to take somebody else's work and just change it, because it's easier than putting the hard work in to start with. You know, Terrence Dicks, Barry Letts, and Robert Holmes, they put the work in to create the master. And then along came Roger Delgado, and by God, what did he do with that? And like you said, with Kate O'Mara, JNT, Pitt and Jane Baker, maybe, don't know for sure, but had that creative input on the Rani. She came in, and by God, she made it a fantastic character. Michelle Gomez could have absolutely knocked it out the park. And in some respects, she did, because people like her, but it was totally unnecessary to make her the master.
It's weighed down by the fact that she's the master. And that's what, for me, I got turned off.
Yeah, all that story. You're immediately handicapped by all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just a case of, I remember that night, that Saturday night, where she reveals who she is, and I remember my groan was vocal.
Yeah.
Oh, God, because I knew instantly where it was going.
Yeah.
This was very much testing the water, and I thought, oh my God, she's on the way. They're actually going to do this, and they'll kill the show. And that's me making the judgment right there. And by God, I was right. So it's a real case there. And I was so disappointed for Michelle as well, because I thought, no. She's a great actress. She's a great talent. She can do her own thing here. And I believe that with Annette Badland here as well. What a talent she is. And it would have been a lovely gift, I personally think, to have said, we've created a brand new baddie for you.
And they've done that before. And Big Finish used to be quite good at creating their own characters, like companions and stuff like that. So they're not beyond that kind of development. It's just they need to be brave and not keep churning at the same, here are the Daleks and old enemies, etc., etc. It gets boring.
Well, it's like some of the people in the chat are saying it's getting repetitive now, it's getting boring now. We had that conversation before, but I remember the Project series with Colin Baker, especially on the audio.
Project Twilight ones, fantastic, yeah.
Those baddies went through about 3 or 4 stories and ended up with the culmination where they were after Sylvester as well. That was scary. And the people, I can't remember now who wrote those, but they were brilliant and they were great stories to listen to. And because they were all linked and at different points in the Doctor's life as well, but it worked because they were after him at that point. I don't know what's come after, but I think you're right, Paul. I think they do have the talents there to say it, but there's something about this, or the toy maker's just been on the telly. Let's do a twist to it and see if we can get people to buy the thing. And we'll have Annette Badland in there as well. Is it going to work for them? Let us know what you think in the comments. I've got Exorphian. Big Finish already did The Queen of Time, a lost story. I guess that's one of their ranges, mate. From Brian Hales. That was already meant to be a female equivalent to the Toy Maker. Why not bring that character back instead? What we're saying here, excellent point. Timescales is also saying, one of my friends pre-ordered Absent Friends and has never been refunded. So we believe that it will be released to people that pre-ordered it at least. That's very interesting, Timescales. And they've never met some sort of press release or some sort of fan release there to say when they're getting the money back or something. I'd look into that if I was your friend. Because that doesn't sound right to me. Blue Captain Jack. Annette is probably not a tick box, just great casting. Agreed. Loved Boomtown, but yes, a new character would have been better. I'm sure she's not tick boxing, because if anybody gets the chance to work with Annette Badland, you bloody well take it. Because she's so good. She's just brilliant. You can give her anything and you know you're going to get quality and you're going to get an actor that can actually act and be dedicated to their craft and produce something. I love her. I think she, as I say, I was thrilled when she came into Doctor Who, and I thought she was brilliant in it as well as the Sabine. Yes, you've got all that there. Oh, goodness me. Sadeko saying Gomez is a great performer, but she seemed to have to hold together a mess of a character. That's a nice observation as well. I suppose when you've got that backstory, though, that's the problem with established characters, and the only ones you can really get away with there is the Doctor. Let's face it, everyone else should be fresh, surely.
Yeah.
You know,
why they couldn't have made Michelle Gomez just another naughty renegade Time Lord been perfect.
Why? Yeah, why not? I thought the Guardian of the Nethersphere would have been.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a Doctor Who villain title there, isn't it? Moffat was right to call it that and then didn't do it. She's a quality actress, says Daniel here. Don't get me wrong, JT, but it does feel like the same old nonsense. Big Finish just appeases a Bad Wolf, so Bad Wolf can give them money to bail themselves out. Oh, I don't know if Bad Wolf are giving them any money. I don't know about that. I haven't heard anything about that. Fantastic. Dalek, I love you, is saying, when are we going to see a male take over an established female actor's role? It will never happen. Of course it's not going to happen. Hollywood wouldn't do that. No, of course not. Show business wouldn't do that. It's not allowed, is it?
So the Rani become the Ronnie instead.
And you can have a little guy with glasses playing it.
Yeah, two of them together called the two Ronnies as well. The two Ronnies. There you go.
Absolutely. Well, that's another thing, isn't it? That's where we're at with all this as well. But it was a shame, really. Again, I just want to throw in the fact that because of this, there was all this sort of nonsense that came out of the back of it as well, and various people, various elements of fandom, unfortunately, crying, "Oh, you're racist! You're racist! When are these people going to see beyond that and actually look at the fact that you can criticize something if you want to, and just say no, it can't be gender swapped or whatever? I mean, it's tiring.
The lady in the picture, Lydia West from It's a Sin, is a really good actress. Anyway, she's fantastic.
Yeah, she is. She's a lovely actress. Is she playing the companion with Tom there, Paul? Do you know?
She is. Yeah. I don't know yet because it's not come out yet, so I've not got that one.
Right.
So I'll let you know, but I think she is. Yeah.
Right.
Well, they're stacking up Tom for years to come. I think they've got so many in the bag. You know, it's
I just want to say to Jack as well, this is never going to happen. Miss Marple, played by Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I can see that. Yeah.
That's not going to happen because I'm going to be the first male Miss Marple. I insist. I am a huge Joan Hickson fan, and I will be playing it in the style that I think Joan Hickson would play it into. There you go. Fantastic. Black Glove Studio, nice to see you. As for Annette Badland, she's an excellent actress, but since her Toymaker story was recorded in 2019 or 2020, her casting is likely due to the gender swap of the time. That's interesting, isn't it? So it was recorded that far ahead, was it, mate? Interesting. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that was the outcome of that particular one. So, wow, this has been a busy show. Are you two okay? Everybody all right on that? That has been. I just want to point out again that the main headline we went to was the update, of course, on the Instagram post from Russell T. Davis, which was that one. Not going to read it out again because I really think it's absolutely outrageous. And we did get a response from the BBC, which was this. And basically what the BBC complaints team have told us here at Whose Views is that RTD is not, I repeat, is not a BBC staff member, and therefore he has no connection to the BBC through his social media accounts or personal opinions. So what we're asking here on Whose Views and Headlines is, where is the accountability, and who is going to have the absolute balls to question him when it comes to tweets and Instagrams and other social media posts and visits to like-minded award shows where he says things that, quite frankly, in society should be questioned. I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you're new to us, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And yes, we are, in fact, in the middle of our We Love Davros season. Come back and see us at the weekend and join our Davros discussion, where we are going to be actually really, really putting the geek fan love for our Valentine of the year, who is Davros. So come and join us for that one. Yeah, we do love Davros. We do love Davros. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for everybody that's joined us in the chat with all your points. It is fantastic to see you. Don't forget, it is our views. It's your views. It's Whose Views. And you can absolutely guarantee that when they give us a headline, we're going to be here to talk about it. Thank you for your support. We will see you again very soon. Guys, thank you for joining me.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.